This is a journey. This is kind of uncharted territory. There is not a lot of research out there on our particular subgroup of kids and how we can best teach them how to read. Hello, my name is Brett, and if you are new here, I am a high school special education teacher. I teach mostly reading to kids who would be in a life skills or self-contained classroom. And I am really glad you're here today because today I'm going to be talking about something I'm really passionate about, which is reading, of course. So one of the things that you will see a lot about if you're on social media, I'll link some Facebook groups down below for you, is about the science of reading. And what that basically means is all the research that we've done over the last couple of decades that we have compiled into figuring out the best way for students to learn how to read. But there's one key thing that is missing in most of this research, and that is teaching our students who have disabilities, specifically more significant disabilities. Things like an intellectual disability or autism. These areas are generally not studied too much. I couldn't find a lot of research out there. So what I would love to do on this channel and over on my Instagram as well is to kind of start a dialogue and start talking about what's working for you in your classroom with your students, what's working for me in my classroom, and see if we can kind of figure this thing out, because we are being left out of this conversation for sure. So if you are interested in coming along on this journey of discovery with me, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'm going to have a lot more videos out over the next couple of weeks on this topic. The main debate that you see in most of these different science of reading type groups is the group of teachers who believe wholeheartedly that we should be teaching systematic, explicit, direct phonics in order to help teach our kids how to read, and another group of teachers who are still holding on to this whole language approach, which is kind of like, if you build it, they will come. Like if you just give them a book they will like, they're going to learn how to read. The tricky thing is a lot of students are going to learn how to read no matter what you throw at them, what curriculum you give them, or how you teach it. At the end of the day, they're going to figure it out themselves. But there's a large chunk of students who are not going to do that. And our research has shown us over the years that what those students need is an explicit, direct, systematic approach to that decoding, that phonics-based skills. But what about our kids with special needs? Let me tell you what I typically see happen with our kids. Usually it's one of two things. First thing is they start off right from the get-go in kindergarten in a self-contained classroom. They are getting all their instruction from the special education teacher right from the beginning. The second situation that I often see them in is we push them into the general education classroom, and so they're in there maybe kindergarten, first, second grade. They are in there for the whatever phonics instruction they are given, whether it's explicit or not, but they're in there, and then it starts to become a problem. The students are not catching up, they're not reading at the rate of their peers, and so somebody says on the team, hey, this isn't working for them, they need some more intensive instruction, and they get moved to a special education classroom for reading. So what's the problem with that, you say, Brett? Well, the problem is, just like all of the regular general education teachers, us special education teachers have not had a lot of training in how to actually teach reading. I was fortunate enough to go to a school where I did get several reading courses, but looking back, most of them were very theoretical. When I did my student teaching in a second grade classroom, it was a whole language approach classroom. We had guided reading groups. There was zero phonics instruction going on. I didn't have a lot of information on how I should go about teaching students. The second problem that is kind of unique to special education teachers, and I hear from teachers all over that have the same issue, is we are not a lot of times given a curriculum. That's right. A lot of times we are pulling things from here and there and trying to put it together and to make some kind of cohesive thing. And I just have to say, if that is you, give me a heck yeah down in the comments. You deserve a high five, because it is extremely hard to be pulling random things all over the place trying to make something cohesive for your student. So I was in your same boat. I do not blame you at all if you're like, my reading instruction is not that great. We are not given the tools or the training that we need to do this. So we're kind of left on our own. When I do see teachers that have a curriculum, a lot of times it is Edmark. or a similar whole word reading curriculum. If you're not familiar with Edmark, Edmark is a whole word system where the students are memorizing words, and they usually will memorize about 300 words over the course of a couple of years. These are the most common words that we see in a lot of reading. The problem with that is it's successful. And why is that a problem, you might ask? Well, it's a problem because teachers see that the students are learning words. They're able to read these simple sentences. So a teacher and a parent says, oh my goodness, yes, the student is finally reading. This is awesome. It becomes a problem when we get to around that second or third grade reading level. They are not going to make it past that because you can only memorize so many words. At the end of the day, you need to have, they say, around a fourth grade reading level in order to kind of function in society. In order to read a job application, a menu, a phone lease, if you want to go rent an apartment, to read an advertisement, you need a fourth grade reading level to do these things. And if you're using this whole word approach, a lot of times around second, third grade level, they kind of fizzle out. They just can't memorize any more words. So my question, I know I'm gonna get some hate comments because I know there's teachers out there who love Edmark and swear by Edmark. But here's my question for you if you are one of those teachers. If we know that the student is capable of memorizing several hundred words through repetition, through consistency, through kind of recycling what they've previously learned over and over, coming back to it, if we've learned that they can do that and memorize 300 words, why are we not taking that time and that strategy and devoting it to learning and memorizing those 44 phonemes of the English language, or the couple hundred ways to spell those different phonemes? Why are we not focusing our attention there? Because if we give the students those pieces, that's going to open up their ability to decode at a much greater level. What I find is that when students get to me at high school, when they've gone through these whole word programs, they get stuck on the text. They're just guessing words. They're throwing out random words that have zero meaning, but they might start with the same letter. And a lot of times these are kids who have gone through these programs. They just never can make it past that, that hump where we get to where we actually need to read the words. We got to decode them. So I have been kind of on this journey with how can I do this better with my kids? Even though they're coming to me in high school, can I still get them to learn some of these pieces and be able to decode some more words? Well, a lot of what I have to do is break this training that they've had of this guessing of the words. And it's really a difficult skill to break. Now, don't get me wrong. I think that there is a place for programs like Edmark. However, I think that place needs to be way down the line. It needs to be when the kids are getting to high school and they still haven't mastered phonics. Okay, let's get them to memorize some functional words before they get out into the real world. That makes sense to me. But saying in kindergarten or first or second grade that we're just throwing in the towel on decoding and we're just going to put them on this path to memorizing a couple hundred words, that really closes a lot of doors for them. And I have a big problem with that. The argument that I hear a lot of times is that the student was not successful in a phonics-based program, and that's why we're moving them over to Edmark. But what I typically find when I look back through the IEPs is, number one, they were never given an explicit phonics-based program to begin with. They were in really a guided reading or a whole reading program with some phonics sprinkled in. They were never given that systematic piece, which they really need. Or number two, if they were given that systematic phonics piece, it was at a pace that was meant for a neurotypical student. We know that our students need to go slower. They need to have more repetition. They need to be recycling those previously learned concepts. That's what they missed out on if they were given that phonics-based approach at the beginning. They missed out on that, having it tailored to suit their needs. So over the next couple of months over on my Instagram and here on YouTube, I hope that we can kind of get this conversation going. I'm going to share with you what's working for me in my classrooms and how I'm approaching this with students, trying to bring in that science of reading piece into our kids who have more significant disabilities, because I really truly believe that our students deserve to have these doors opened for them.